Hello and welcome to the seventh step in really transcending stress and suffering. And today, this step toward an enlightened mind, again, reminding you that it's all about the mind and how we want to redirect the mind to who we are as consciousness. And so we've gone through the earlier steps was I'm not this, I'm not this. So now we're taking a look at what I am. But again, it can't be grasped as completely what we are. It can only be experienced. Okay, so with that in mind, today's is related to the fact that you and I are not limited to the confines of our body. Our awareness is not limited to these limitations of the body. And usually we think of ourselves as having experiences that are both inner and outer, inside the body and outside the body. But if you really, and I invite you to do this, really look at your experience, do you really find a boundary between those experiences which you feel are inside here or inside here and out there? See if you can find a border between those. So as you are watching me now, you are seeing these images out here. You might be having some thoughts about what I'm saying, or you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner tonight. And you may have some sensations in your body, maybe a little soreness from some exercise, or maybe some tightness or hunger, okay? And as you take a look, is there a boundary in your awareness? Is there a border between the thoughts you're having about what I'm saying or about tonight's dinner and the sensations you're having in your left knee or your right foot and these images, the sight of the computer screen or the TV screen, the sight of the window in your room looking out at the rain? Now, is there anything separating the seeing the rain, the thoughts you're having about tonight's dinner, the sensation in your left knee? Are they taking place in a different awareness? Or are they all taking place within the same awareness? And if you really pay attention to it, they're taking place in the same awareness. And if you realize, think about it, we have three areas of experience. And again, this is grounded in experience and really a close examination of your experience. So in your experience, if you think about it, there's the mind, which are thoughts, and feelings, which are thoughts and their physiological counterparts or correlates in your body. So if I felt anger, there might be a tension in my body correlated with that anger and a wish to strike out. If there's sadness, there may be a physiological correlate of like feeling down and wanting to cry perhaps. Okay, so the mind is made up of thoughts, a stream of thoughts, and feelings, again, which interact body and mind. The body, as a second area of experience, are sensations primarily. If you close your eyes, how do you experience your body? It's a cluster of sensations. Okay? An endless stream, just like the thoughts in the mind. And then lastly, there's the world, or all this, other people, places, things, animals, nature, galaxies, subatomic particles, all of that we consider to be the universe, the world, and so forth. Now, all those are taking place within you, the vast spaciousness of awareness. And to say spaciousness, again, you and I are the eternal subject, which cannot be seen, heard, touched, tasted, but does the seeing, hearing, touching, and tasting. Now, science would tell you it's taking place in the brain and so forth, but even the brain can be witnessed by you and I on an MRI. So, we're really taking all these different steps are all leading to you uprooting this consciousness being identified with mind and body, and rerouting that awareness in that formless consciousness, that limitless consciousness. So today, as we look at our experience, there's no limit between the mind experiences there, the body experiences, and sights and sounds coming through the body about the world. So, in that sense, you and I can proclaim, like we did last week, I am that which is eternal. That is, I am the ever present element of every experience, without which there would be no experience. Okay? So today, I am that which is infinite, limitless. Where's the limit in my awareness? Yeah. I am that which is witnessing the fact that I can only see the screen. I can't see too far to the right beyond that. I can't see too far to the left beyond that. I'm not seeing, but I am that in which I am experiencing the limits of my body and my mind. But that which is experiencing them, that experiencer, is not limited. There's no form to it. And I always love, and I'll say this a number of times, Eckhart Tolle's comment that in the stillness, in those still moments, you and I can feel the formless, that is the limitless, the infinite, and the timeless, that is that which is outside time and witnessing before and after, witnessing past, present, and future, is now witnessing here and there. My body is here, your body is there, the computer is there, and I am here in this chair as a body. But as as Swami Sarvapriyananda told a story about the student and the enlightened teacher was saying, you are all pervasive as consciousness. There's no place where you are not. You are everywhere, and you are that which is ever present. Okay, so in that regard, as you think about that, the student said, but Master, I'm here and you're there. And the Master says, are not you aware of here and there? And yes, we are aware of here and there. That's taking place within awareness. The body being here, the student's body being here, and the teacher's body being there. Just as you and I, in this present moment, our body is in this moment, we're limited as a body-mind in this moment, but that which is aware of the body-mind being in this moment and thinking about the future, all that's taking place in this vast formless awareness. So as I like, as Eckhart Tolle puts it, and I add a few things to it, his comment is, in the stillness of your presence, in the stillness of, let's make it in first person, in the stillness of my presence, try this on, I can feel my own formless and timeless reality as the unmanifested, the unseen life and consciousness that animates, that brings to life this physical form. I can then feel that same life and consciousness deep within every other creature and every other human. I look beyond the veil, the seeming numerous, multitudinous shapes and forms of things. I look beyond that to beyond these separate things and all, I seem to say, beyond that to the oneness that underlies it. And so, what do we call that? We call that oneness, that is actually the connection of all. So I look beyond I look beyond the separation, I look beyond the names and forms, and I see the oneness. Now, that eternal one life that's in all of this, that's our sentient beings, feeling beings, and that consciousness that is in all this, as you look at your pet and you see those little eyes looking back at you, you see the light of consciousness looking back at you, and that light has got the characteristics of love, peace, and joy, and you can see that. You can tangibly see that. So in today's exercise, you'll be breathing in, breathing in. I am that which is infinite. Why? Because there's no separation, no border between what I experience in my mind, my body, and in the world. They're all happening in the same place. Sensations are happening in that place. Thoughts are happening in that place. Feelings are happening in that place. Sights, sounds, what I touch, taste, and smell is all happening in that same place. Okay, so in that sense, you and I, as being infinite or limitless, we have no dimension as consciousness. We have no shape, size, weight to us. And those of you who may have had out-of-body experiences, that is where suddenly, you've probably heard of the people on an operating table who suddenly they find themselves hovering above the operating table, looking down and seeing what's going on. That's when their consciousness has been separated and disidentified from the body-mind, and they're now witnessing it. And that happens in those moments. And they feel weightless, and they feel it's a very liberating experience. Now, I've had some occasion to experience that through the Monroe Institute. If you look it up online, it's TMI. That's the Monroe Institute. And one of the things that Robert Monroe did was he discovered in his efforts back in the 50s studying sleep learning that one night he woke up and found himself looking down and seeing his body in bed, and he saw this thing around him which he thought was a fountain, but he realized it was a chandelier. And from that moment on, when he would go through his relaxation using his audio tapes and so forth, he would begin to have these experiences of his consciousness separating its identification with the body-mind. And in one of the instances, I was listening to a CD of his, and it was saying, like a log, like rolling off a log in water, like a log spinning in water, rolling off a log in water, something like that. Next thing you know, it was dark. It was about 5 in the morning. I'm listening to the CD. Suddenly, I felt myself just floating. I had no weight. It was so incredibly liberating. Oh, and then after some moments like that, I don't know how much time passed, but I know I heard his voice again, and I was annoyed because it called me right back in here, and I felt my heaviness and all that goes with having a body. So the thing is, that's just an example of how you might experience it. Now, another example I had was I was in a training workshop with a procedure that Stanislav Grof called holotropic breathwork, which was based on a shamanic technique. And the shamanic technique was loud music, and you were doing the circular breathing, repetitive, and suddenly it's almost like hyperventilating, but not really hyperventilating. And next thing you know, I felt myself as if I lifted out of my body. I was flying through what looked like a kind of an outer space, what I would call the space where inner and outer space kind of collide or come together. And I saw these portals, these 3 framed door frames in the sky, and in those I saw female, and 2 of them I saw a Native American woman, deerskin vest and so forth, and another I saw a woman from the 1890s with the hair up and the high button collars and so forth. Looked like similar to photos I'd seen of my grandmother, my mother's side. And then I saw an empty door frame, and I found myself kind of just shoot through that door frame. And the next thing I know, I felt this expansive, formless, timeless me felt suddenly in a little flesh form, after which I realized I was re-experiencing a birth, re-experiencing being in my mother's womb. That's what came to me later, but at the time I didn't know what it was. I just experienced it, and I felt myself in this little tiny flesh form, and I felt myself like little arms and things trying to get my balance, and then I suddenly was seized by a painful experience, which I later realized was hunger. Every cell in my body was on fire with a desire to get rid of this feeling, this sensation of gnawing hunger. Again, I didn't know it was hunger. I just knew it was something I wanted to get away from. I couldn't escape. And at that moment, something deep inside said, witness this. And as I did, I noticed that there was another consciousness beyond the one stuffed in this little flesh form that I was identified with outside myself. And I felt it to the right of me, but it had no form. It was just there, and I merged with that while still maintaining a connection with the little flesh form. I had this broader, expansive consciousness. And I still felt the pain, but from this somewhat transcendent perspective, outside the little confines, the limits, the borders of this little flesh form, which would be a little fetal body, I was able to endure what felt like maybe 15 minutes of this inescapable discomfort, this gnawing pain. And so eventually it passed. And so what I saw at that point was, I felt as if there were two separate sets of consciousness, but there really weren't. There was just the one, part of which had flown into and had become embodied in this form. But there was a vast expanse of conscious outside of this, which I didn't see the limits to. And that's when at that moment I began to think of that in terms of defining terms, that the spirit enters the body and that becomes the embodied soul. And so in my book, The Space Between Stars, I write the book from the standpoint of my spirit, the higher, wider consciousness that I am, and the smaller consciousness identified with the physical form. Hence, spirit and that which extends from spirit into enlivening this physical form, I call soul. And I thought that's a good way for me to understand that. And so I wrote the story of various parts of my life from the standpoint of my spirit telling the story about Stephen did this and he had these experiences and so forth. And it was an interesting perspective to take, the higher, wider perspective of what had happened in the vast space between these different experiences in my life. Because the first part was the space between polio, I had polio as a kid, and later becoming a basketball player and having success as a basketball player and coordination, which I didn't have when I had polio. So the space between, in that case, what was polio and the effects of it, and what I would love to have happen, being able to be graceful and flow on a basketball court. And then later, there was a phase of my life which I called the space between surface and depth. The surface of the personality, the conscious mind, and the unconscious, that which we repress and so forth, it's incompatible with our self-concept. And then I had the last phase, which is a phase now that I am in, the space between what I call heaven and earth, the spiritual phase of my life. So anyway, today, as we go over this now, just take time every once in a while, get still, and feel that formless, timeless reality of the unmanifested life and consciousness that is in you, that which is in you, soul, and that which is around you, beyond, and which witnesses the body, the mind, and the world, that consciousness, that limitless consciousness. So, breathing in, I am that which is infinite, limitless. Why? Because there are no boundaries between what I experience as coming in my mind and what I experience as being in my body and what I experience as out there in the world. So, every once in a while this week, just take time to experience that. I'm going to leave you with a couple of poems from Shabkar. I believe he was in the 18th century, a Buddhist master. And he said, "In the vastness of the sky, without center or edges, the sun shines, illuminating all things without choosing. This is the way you should help all beings." There's a little side for that. That's providing that unconditional positive regard for a person, non-judgmental awareness. That's what he means by that's how we should help all beings. The second poem. In the vastness of the sky, one must remain in the vastness of the sky, alert and lucid, as though seated on the summit of a mountain, open to all the horizons. Now, he uses vast and vastness a couple times, and I've told you before that this consciousness that we are is considered Brahman, which is the ultimate reality. And so Brahman translates as the vast. So get in touch with the vast that you are this week. Have a great week.